Guatemala, a Latin American country located in Central America. It is also known as the country of eternal spring. Though the country has beautiful flora, fauna, and culture, it has been facing major issues in its capital. In Guatemala City, gang violence has been running rampant in the impoverished sectors like Zone 18, shown in this clip. So, what's been happening recently in Guatemala? Recently, in January of 2026, President Bernardo Arevalo has declared a 30-day state of emergency due to some prison riots that have been happening in the country, which have left 7 officers dead.
Successfully to revive a wounded police officer outside the Justice Center in Villanueva on Sunday. He was one of 7 officers shot dead as gangs retaliated after authorities moved back into prisons taken over by inmates.
But to understand how the country has gotten to this point, we need to understand the reason these gangs were here in the first place. The problem started back in the late 90s after the Guatemalan Civil War had ended. This civil war ending had left the country in a very unstable position, and this instability allowed gangs like MS-13, also known as the Maras, and Barrio 18, which is another rival gang in Guatemala, to come in to the country from the United States and to take control of the capital, Guatemala City. Since then, the city has become overrun by the gangs, and the government has not been able to stop it. Now back to the riots. The biggest riot happened in a prison called Renovacion Uno, one of Guatemala's strictest prisons, located in Escuintla, which is just over an hour from the capital. The cause of these riots was that the government had decided that for all of them, the king size beds, high speed internet, mariachis, alcohol, drugs they had access to behind bars were over. This is in relation to how the leaders of the gangs still had power behind bars because the government really couldn't do anything about it. So this led to the gangs being upset that their leaders would no longer have the same pull that they had behind bars. And it also just shows that the fact that they even had any sort of power behind bars, how little power the government could actually control the gang issue within the country. This is why many communities have resorted to using vigilante justice as a way to protect their areas they live in from being affected by these gangs. So how can we try and fix the gangs in Guatemala? Well, first we have to understand that the reason many people join gangs is because they are impoverished. They're living in impoverished communities, and they think that joining gangs will get them out of that poverty. Over 50% of Guatemala's population lives in poverty, and about 17% live in extreme poverty. Some solutions that I've come up with over the course of my research have been that the president needs to step up and actually try to fight the gang violence like he said he would. His whole platform when he ran for president and was elected on was that he was going to fight the gang violence within the country and make it a safer place. If he actually wanted to do this, he would need to include or start implementing programs into the government that could focus on the gang issue and actually try to resolve it. Another solution would be that the Bosch Gutierrez family could help create affordable housing because they have the most control in the real estate district in Guatemala. Another solution I came up with was that the government needs to create programs that help get people out of poverty, because poverty is the main issue and why the gangs are still continuing to have so much power within the city. The government also needs to have better funding within the law enforcement system, because in many departments in Guatemala City's impoverished districts, all that police officers are given by the government is a badge. Many officers have had to buy their own weapons and ammunition, and in some cases they even have had to share one bulletproof vest throughout the precinct in rotation. Another solution would be to build affordable housing for people in the capital. More housing for impoverished communities would mean that there are less people on the streets. And the final solution I came up with was to build more schools in impoverished communities. Getting young people into an activity like schooling that keeps them off the streets will help prevent them from resorting to joining a gang and keeping the cycle going.